Ladies and gentlemen, I am MagMongoSlade. We're going to talk about Crown Jewel. We're also going to talk about SmackDown from October the 10th. So it's going to be a duo review for those of you who like to hear me talk. We're going to be talking a little bit more than usual here. I didn't review SmackDown because it came on really early in the morning. Everything was spoiled, and I didn't want to do one, okay? SmackDown wasn't worth it. So I decided I'm just going to put together Crown Jewel and SmackDown. Since the way Triple H puts these shows together, they overlap very little anyway. They feature very different wrestlers, so I'm going to do Crown Jewel first in descending order, then I'm going to do SmackDown. All right, so let us begin. WWE Crown Jewel, Perth, Australia. I did not see the attendance. I didn't really look. The building looked okay. Building sounded okay. Great energy from the crowd. The Crown Jewel Championship match, Seth Rollins defeats Cody Rhodes. Earlier in the night, Paul Heyman told the Bronze that Seth has to do this on his own, that it's a meritocracy, and no matter what happens, Seth has to win on his own. Now, let me tell you, I wasn't really all that excited for this match. Obviously, if you've been listening to these videos, I have not been the biggest supporter of these two wrestling this match. But the way they put things together, it was pretty solid. It was a pretty good match. There's one thing in it, obviously, that occurred that kind of made me roll my eyes, and that was the crossroads from the top rope. If that's not being the finish, that's ridiculous. All right. Other than that, I mostly liked the match. It continued the story of Seth Rollins' mental instability, with him being extremely frustrated and incapable of keeping Cody Rhodes down, to the point where he's yelling at the announcers and he's yelling at the referee. He's feeling the pressure of this big match, and that's all fine. Cody Rhodes tries one of those top rope cutters. He misses it completely. Seth Rollins hits a pedigree and a stomp only for a 2 count. He's frustrated. He goes outside the ring. He gets the watch that Cody Rhodes gave him as a gift following WrestleMania 40. He considers using it. Then he thinks the better of it. He puts it down in the corner. They continue to wrestle. He actually hits Cody with a flying coast-to-coast headbutt, which looked great, except for Cody had to lift his head in order for the headbutt to make contact. Why did he just not do a drop kick? I don't know, but it looked pretty good, and we hadn't seen Seth Rollins do a coast-to-coast, so that was pretty sweet. This was followed up by an off-the-top rope Spanish fly, which I'm sick of. I'm sick of seeing this move. We don't need to see it in the main event of WWE shows. We see it everywhere. Followed by a Uranagi, only for a 2, of course. We continue to wrestle, and then the crossroads off the top rope, which I was like, Jesus Christ, why would you even do that in a match and the guy's going to kick out of it? That could have been an excellent finish against, a Brock Lesnar or somebody like that. And you do it in this match and the guy kicks out of it. You only bury your own finisher. It's ridiculous. They do a light referee bump as Cody grabs another crossroads. Seth Rollins at this point had already grabbed the watch. He puts it around his fist like brass knuckles, and he pops Cody in the jaw. From there, he goes for a stomp, and then he drags him to the ropes, and he does a second stomp off the second rope and pins Cody Rhodes to win the Crown Jewel Championship. Afterwards, Seth Rollins reveals that he is the greatest of all time. He's higher than the highest. There was no surprise. There was no connective tissue to Monday Night Raw. The Bronze didn't come out to celebrate. Nothing happened. Seth Rollins just won the match and celebrated to end the show. That was it. Extremely flat. That needs to stop. I don't care what anybody says about, they're changing creative visions for SmackDown. They're trying to do different things. What needs to stop is you need to stop ending these shows flat. Guy won, guy lost. Okay, go off the air. No. The heel should not be celebrating to go off the air. The heel can win, but something should be happening as the show goes off the air, especially in a non-canon match like this that nobody's going to remember in 3 months. This needs to have had something end and start something fresh for Seth Rollins in order to get people to watch Raw. People are not going to watch Raw if everything's flat all the time. I'm even okay with Seth Rollins winning. I kind of figured Seth Rollins would win, considering the entire match is built around Seth Rollins never winning. So that it was all fine. So fourth match on the show, Asuka and Kairi Sane are defeated by Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. Pretty obvious that Rhea Ripley was not going to lose, not only on her birthday weekend, but in her home country. It was pretty obvious Rhea Ripley was going over. But they gave Io the moonsault and the pin, so they made her look good, even though they played Rhea Ripley's music when the pin was over. Asuka worked very well here. Kairi Sane, they told the story of Kairi essentially throwing herself to the wolves. She saved Asuka, and that's the reason why they lost. And so they can blame the loss on Kairi to continue the story. Asuka didn't lose. Asuka can continue to be mean to Kairi, and Io hasn't pinned Asuka, so their storyline could continue. And Rhea Ripley, I don't know how she manages to stay in this story, but she's going to be in this story. Otherwise, there was nothing over the top about this match that was, oh my God, it was so great. There was also nothing terrible about it. It was a really good Raw match, smacked as the co-main event of the show. I'm surprised it wasn't the main event, considering Rhea Ripley was in it. But also, I think they had done enough to really put the Cody and Seth Rollins in the main event. Next, John Cena defeats AJ Styles. This match is very much a match that some people are going to disapprove of. Also going to be a match that a lot of people approve of. The reason being, there's no heat in this match. There's no build to the match. So there's nothing undergirding it outside of their history together. And you have to ask the question, like, who's going to be the heel? How are you going to build the shine, the heat, the comeback, the traditional pro wrestling match? And they decided, we're not going to do a traditional pro wrestling match. We're going to throw that in the garbage. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to do a tribute to all of our friends. A match where both competitors basically just showed utmost respect to everybody who helped build their careers to this point. John Cena honored AJ Styles with a very special introduction that he wrote personally for him, referring to him as the definition of total nonstop action, the ace and undisputed boss of the Bullet Club, the face that runs the place. It was very sweet for two guys who are about to just throw everything at each other in an entire match. It's so weird because this is not what pro wrestling is supposed to be. At the same time, I didn't hate it. Like, it put me in a very weird space because I wanted a traditional, and I always prefer a traditional pro wrestling match with a babyface and a heel. If you're not going to give me a babyface and a heel, but a babyface versus babyface, at least give me a babyface with an edge. And one that could be considered the stronger heel, and the other one could be considered a underdog babyface. They didn't do that either. Both guys had equal respect for each other. Therefore, they wrestled as equals, essentially. And they just traded moves from other people. It started from the very beginning with AJ Styles wearing throwback gear to his TNA days. Then they did a really lengthy exchange where AJ Styles goes for the Styles Clash and is countered into the STF, and Styles counters it into the crossface. Cena escapes and get a camel clutch, which of course is Rusev's finish. AJ Styles escapes into the Coquina clutch, which is of course Samoa Joe's finish. Later, AJ Styles tries to go for a calf crusher, but is countered into a Walls of Jericho, of course Chris Jericho's finish. Cena hits a Sister Abigail's kiss later on, which of course is Bray Wyatt's finish. Then AJ Styles hit Angel's Wings, which is Christopher Daniels' finish. Then Cena hit a Randy Orton's hanging DDT along with an RKO. Later, AJ Styles uses what the hanged person calls a dead eye, but it's called the fade to black, which is Frankie Kazarian's finisher. AJ Styles shows respect to John Cena by using the FU. Cena hits a choke slam, which is reminiscent, of course, the Undertaker. The big spot is the crowd chanting 619, and Cena actually tries to do a 619, and the only heat of the match is AJ Styles breaking up the 619 with a clothesline. That was the only heat of the entire match. These guys just did it's not even a popcorn match. There was no malice, no intensity at all in this match. Somehow, they made this thing work with no heat, no malice, no intensity, but they continued to pop the crowd by leaving the crowd questioning what move are they going to do next. And they found inventive ways to get into these moves. The unfortunate thing about it, however, is that none of the false finishes felt legitimate, because once you realize they're just doing a parade of other people's moves, you kind of figure they're going to keep doing it until they run out of moves. So there was no real reason to be like, oh yeah, this should have been the finish, or this was a great false finish. No, there was no great false finish. When AJ Styles used the Coquina clutch, I figured Cena was going to get out of it. And when Cena hit him with the walls of Jericho, I figured AJ Styles would get out of it somehow. And I've seen people argue that it devalued all of these moves. Look, both of these guys are retiring. It's at the point where nobody really gives a shit. There's no desire for anybody to hate AJ Styles or boo John Cena. There's no need to force feed a heel turn. But I don't want to praise it because I don't want people to go out there and do it again. And I think that's where I'm stuck with it. Because if I say, oh, this was great, they just went out there and did each other's opponents' moves from their history and it told a brilliant story in that way, and honestly, that would be the truth, then some idiot's going to go out there and do it with less emphasis, and they're going to do every indie move they know how to do, and everybody's going to be like, well, you liked it when Cena and AJ Styles did it. But it's completely different because of these guys' long history, not only with each other, but long history in the business. This is the last time they're going to wrestle. AJ Styles has already announced that next year is his last year. I don't see a problem with them having a match like this when the creative dropped the ball so completely by not giving them a storyline, by them not preparing to have this match. It's such a miracle that these two guys were able to go out there and do this that I can't say that it's garbage either. So it's a very interesting situation. I think it's a match that most people will enjoy if they watch it. It's full of member berries throughout the history of the guys. If you are into that sort of thing, the deep lore of John Cena's career and the deep lore of AJ Styles' career, is probably a fun match to watch. But if you're watching pro wrestling for the traditional babyface heel dynamic, even if it was a jumbled babyface heel dynamic, it's not going to be for you. So for me, it's not a match I would go back and watch compared to all of the other matches they've done that were more traditional. Their Royal Rumble match, their SummerSlam match, I love those matches. This was a good one. It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't something that I feel is a pro wrestling match that people needed to consume. It's basically a nice cherry on top between two guys who kind of deserve to be on the show, but weren't going to be featured. And I don't really have a problem with that. All right, the second match on the show, Stephanie Vaquer defeats Tiffany Stratton to win the Women's Crown Jewel Championship. Good match, not great. Another babyface versus babyface contest where there was a lot of moves being done to each other, but no heat being built. Not much in the way of a story being told either. This is a problem, obviously. The lack of babyface and heel dynamic, it was very frustrating here. And it's been frustrating in the build-up. The story was really simple. They kind of traded moves and were shown as being essentially equals. Tiffany Stratton just fell short. She tried a perfect moonsault, or the prettiest moonsault ever. She missed. She landed right in position for the corkscrew splash, and Stephanie Vaquer nailed it and won. And that was it. Again, nobody came out to crash her celebration. She cut a promo in broken English about the love and support of the fans and believing in her dreams and believing in herself and all this sort of stuff. I don't know. She's got demons tattooed on her neck. She's got demon horns and everything, but she's talking about, the fans loving her and her dream. I don't know. It's very bizarre. There's going to be some questions about Stephanie Vaquer, considering she made the decision to join WWE for less money than she would have made in AEW. And her reward has been a massive push. In less than 1 year, she has won the NXT North American Championship, the NXT Main Championship, the Women's World Championship, and the Crown Jewel Championship, all within a year. She's got this massive push. She has performed extremely well, but she hasn't had a storyline since NXT. And we're in this weird time where Triple H could honestly tell people, hey, you can forego going to AEW, come to us, and we'll give you that big Stephanie Vaquer push, but we're not going to pay you as much. And some people may say, well, okay, I'm for that. While other people will say, no, I'd rather work on Ring of Honor for a whole lot of money. Who knows? But Stephanie is getting what she wants, which is the worldwide platform. And the fans are responding in kind. There's some wishy-washiness there, but the fans are behind her, just not as behind her as they would have been if this thing was built more organically over time. So the people are there. Her push is phenomenal. She's looking bulletproof out there. So I really don't know if she made a mistake. Ultimately, if she makes more money on the next contract, then I guess she did everything the right way. So it is what it is. Same time, though, Tiffany Stratton, they said this was the first loss she suffered all year. That feels like a lie. It doesn't feel true. But once again, they didn't have somebody cost Tiffany Stratton the match, which would have made more sense if like a Chelsea Green or somebody like that would have come out and hit her in the back of the head with a belt or tripped her or something in order to protect her. Look, I get it. You want to pick Stephanie over. You want to put Stephanie over strong. But what you should have done is built something out of this thing. Babyface versus babyface. If you're not going to turn Stephanie, which I knew they weren't going to do, instead you should have just had a heel come out and distract Tiffany. Either somebody attacked her, somebody, injured her before the match, something. Her just going in there, trying her best and losing, devalues her championship and devalues her championship run. At least when it came to Seth Rollins and Cody, they had Seth Rollins cheat. I still probably would have preferred outside interference, but Seth Rollins cheating made the match worth it. Here, didn't do Tiffany Stratton no favors to lose this match clean. All right, the number one first match on the show, Roman Reigns loses to Bronson Reed. The whole Bronson Reed thing, there's a Twitter account called El Plethora. They kept referring to Bronson Reed as Australian Earthquake. Now, that's absolutely hilarious because it's very true. This feels like an Earthquake Hulk Hogan storyline. Oh, my God. This was a classic Roman Reigns walk and brawl contest where, they use one weapon a whole lot. And then there was a bunch of storyline elements later with Braun Breaker interfering, of course. Then the Usos, who Roman told on SmackDown he didn't need them. He told them on SmackDown that he didn't need them. But they showed up anyway. They attacked Braun Breaker. And then ultimately, Jay tries to spear Braun Breaker. And he misses and he spears Roman through the table. Braun Breaker takes out the Usos. And then Bronson Reed hits the tsunami. And Roman is pinned in Australia. So now Bronson Reed has beaten Okada and he's beaten Roman Reigns. Oh my goodness. I gotta say, them giving him this win was very important Him winning was very, very important to his growth. He beat Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins has not beaten Roman Reigns. So he has all the momentum in the world. Now that this guy has beaten Roman Reigns, you can't have anybody else beat him, right? They're probably going to have another match with Roman and him. I know that they're booking War Games for Survivor Series again, and no doubt that the Vision will be part of that. There's a story floating around that Austin Theory and Brock Lesnar are going to be added to this Vision for the War Games match. Austin Theory, I'm okay with that. He can be a good bump and heel, and I don't hate that idea. Brock Lesnar, I don't know if I am in love with that idea. I have no idea. But let's say that stuff occurs. Roman told the Usos he don't want to see them until Christmas. So it's not going to be like the Bloodline plus two more guys versus Seth Rollins and two more guys. That doesn't seem like it's what's going to occur. Roman was pretty upset at the Usos for costing him this match. And he was like, the whole world thinks I can't do shit on my own. Which is true. They've thought that since 2021. People have thought since 2021 that Roman can't win a singles match by himself. But look, the War Games idea, for me, I'm cooked on War Games. I'm much better, much more interested in a regular Survivor Series match. But if they're going to go that route, fine. But I do think they need to have another Roman Reigns Bronson Reed match because they're now 1-1. Roman won the first match and Bronson Reed won this one. So they've got to have some kind of blow-off match where Roman obviously cleans the clock of Bronson Reed. And they're setting up Roman to be gone for the next month and a half. So it's not likely he's going to show up at Survivor Series. It's also not likely he's going to be on the Saturday Night's Main Event shows between now and then. And if that's the case, then we're talking about, well, maybe we are talking about the Cena last match show, which may feature the blow-off to Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns. Okay, that's fine, but you got to protect Bronson Reed from this point forward, right? He can't go out there and lose to Jey Uso or get beat by Jimmy Uso. That would give you an opening for another bump and heel, which would open the door for a guy like an Austin Theory. However, if you were going to bring in an Austin Theory or a Brock Lesnar, this show would have been a perfectly fine show to add them to the roster. To show that Heyman had a plan and that Heyman was prepared for the Usos to come out there. Because as it stood right now, the Bloodline had them 3-on-2 and was winning and could have won and should have won. They had the upper hand 3-on-2, but they could have added another person or another two people in order to continue this storyline. Also, I don't know if I feel like Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns in another match, even in a War Games match, is tickling my fancy, you know? Even though it would be interesting, it'll definitely sell that building out. I'm not sure I'm that interested in that. Maybe just the idea of War Games is distasteful to me as it sits right now. But the match itself was a typical walk-in brawl. It was nothing special. It didn't really showcase a whole lot of what Bronson Reed could do. They weren't trying to go out there and wow everybody. It was basically Roman Reigns doing his star power. You were interested in the match because Roman Reigns was in it. So it's fine. It was fine. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. It was just fine. Overall, Crown Jewel, much better than WrestlePalooza. It was far more interesting. I think from an in-ring perspective, Tiffany and Stephanie Vaquera was high level. AJ Styles and John Cena was high level. Rollins and Cody was high level. The women's tag team match was high level. There's plenty of stars on this show. So, you had Cena there, Styles there, Roman's there, Cody's there. Hey, you got enough people that you're interested in. It's fine. I still think that the show was too long to be so short, which means that the matches were too long. And it's so many commercials. The pacing is brutal. The pacing remains brutal. It's going to be impossible to say a WWE PLE pay-per-view event is great until they fix their pacing issues, which is going to not happen because this is the format now. The format is 5 to 6 matches with breaks in between, 3 or 4 minute breaks in between, which makes it as an elevated TV show. And until that changes, these shows will not be above a B. And I think this is probably a B- show. It's better than WrestlePalooza from an in-ring perspective, but I'm aggravated by the 2 babyface versus babyface matches, and I'm very aggravated that nothing on the show had any real weight outside of the first match, which featured, of course, Bloodline stuff. So that was aggravating. All right, so let's hit the greatest hits of SmackDown. Jacob Fatu confronted Cody. Aldis likes to see people level up. And they teased that Jacob Fatu is going to wrestle Drew McIntyre next week on SmackDown. They didn't say it was a number 1 contenders match, but it's looking like it's a number 1 contenders match because Jacob Fatu wants to wrestle Cody as well. And Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre brawled back and forth all night. I'm interested in Jacob Fatu versus Cody. That tickles my fancy. I want to see that. Jacob Fatu has not had the smoothest push in WWE, but getting him in there with Cody could definitely help matters. I also want to see, another Drew McIntyre and Cody match, one where Drew has a better chance of winning. I kind of knew that he wasn't going to win the last time because of that stupid crown jewel thing. So I'm actually more interested in Jacob and Cody at this point, and that's the fault of the bookers. The United States Open Challenge, Shinsuke Nakamura was the answer of the challenge. He was back to his old theme song. He had some new gear, I should say, but he was back to his old wrestling style. It's like somebody dipped Nakamura in the Lazarus pit. He was in shape. He was working his ass off. He seemed energetic. The crowd was behind him. They were with it. They were with this. This was good. And then the MFTs showed up and ruined everything. And the MFTs are now wearing face paint like, the old Gorillas of Destiny from the Bullet Club days. So Tama Tonga is back. And now everybody except Solo is wearing war paint. And you know what? I prefer that. They stand out now. They look different. They look less like a second-rate bloodline. And they look more like a group of savages. I like this. I know what I'm going to get when the bell rings, but I'm okay with this. Now, the MFTs are going to be the lead heels on SmackDown. I'm not so sure how I feel about that. But they're putting Solo right back in the midst of the United States Championship by having him attack Nakamura and Sami Zayn. Obviously, they're setting up a tag team match, which will likely be Nakamura and Zayn versus Solo and JC Mateo. Then they had the MFTs attack the Wyatt Six after the Wyatt Six defeated the Street Profits to retain the tag team titles. Obviously, we're going to have the Gorillas of Destiny in that situation as well. So we're going to get a whole lot of MFTs. And I'm not thrilled with that. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not the biggest fan of the MFTs. So I'm not that excited about this whole thing. The Street Profits losing was very anticlimactic, very terrible. They should have done an angle to get rid of these guys. It looks like the team is going to have to break up. I mean, they went back to their old theme song, which is great. And so many people were very excited about this, that the Nakamura went back to his original theme, and the Street Profits went back to their original theme. They're changing things up. They're listening to the crowd. They should never have changed this stuff. That's the thing. Like, they never should have changed the Street Profits theme song. They never should have changed Nakamura's theme song. I'm okay with you changing his character. I'm not okay with you changing his theme song. Those things never should have been affected in the first place. But taking Nakamura back to last known good is a fine option. But the Street Profits have hit a dead end. They're in a cul-de-sac where they just kind of keep going around in circles. Like, there's nothing here for them. You might as well just take them off TV. You know, like I found out now that DIY and Motor City Machine Guns are touring with NXT. You might as well send the Street Profits right on with them. You know, they might as well go tour with NXT as well, for God's sake. You know, like there's nothing for these guys on the main roster anymore. Very, very unfortunate. We got Aleister Black versus Damian Priest, which was the main event of the show. They did a walk-in brawl. The match was solid, last man standing. The finish was very awkward. You had standing on a stage or whatever, and Aleister Black was in a submissive position. All of a sudden, Zelina Vega is in the crowd, and she's scooting along the crowd, and she's begging Damian Priest to not do whatever he's planning to do to Aleister Black. And, you know, Aleister Black's like, you know, it's okay. It's okay. He tells Zelina, it's okay. It's okay. So she steps out of the way, and Damian Priest takes his straps down very dramatically to finish the job, only to have a fireball thrown in his face and the Black Mass kick off the standing platform, and he falls through a table, and he loses the match that way. So Damian Priest lost to Aleister Black, and now Aleister Black is teamed up with his wife, Zelina Vega, on television. She has been doing anime girl stuff for the longest, so now she's going to go in the opposite direction and kind of be a goth queen. I know that she really idolizes Aaliyah, so I can pretty much tell you she's going to probably go in Queen of the Damned territory. She probably won't do the whole Fangs thing, but she might look more like, you know, Aaliyah did in Queen of the Damned, and it might be fun. You know, it might be very fun. It seems that the only way Zelina Vega's career moves forward is as a screw job to other people. You know, she got brought back to WWE back in 2020 or 2021 as a kind of a fuck you to the unions. And then she got a decent push once Sasha Banks got outed. So then everybody was like, kind of a screw you to her, because she started using a whole bunch of Sasha Banks moves and stuff. And now Scarlett is on the internet talking about how WWE is misogynistic and didn't care about her. And they're like, okay, we'll show you that we don't need you and Karrion Kross. We've got Aleister Black, who is about the same age as Karrion Kross. They're like a couple of years apart. And we're going to just put him with his wife. So we got our kickboxer tattooed guy, even though he's smaller. And we got our goth girl with him. We don't need Kross and Scarlett. I'm very interested in Aleister Black and Zelina Vega as a team up on screen. You know, that's very interesting. I'm always a big fan of Zelina Vega, her getting opportunities. This works because she's a good manager. She was great with Andrade. She could be great with her husband as well. Hopefully they have on-screen chemistry. It doesn't matter what their married life is like if they don't have any chemistry on screen. So hopefully they have chemistry on screen, and it's good. A lot of people are saying, okay, well, Damian Priest, he had to bring his girlfriend into it, who apparently is Lola Vice. I don't know if they could bring his real girlfriend into it, because they could when it comes to Lola Vice. Or they could do the Terror Twins thing where he gets Rhea Ripley. Or he could just, you know, they could elevate another woman by bringing a different woman into the storyline. My guess, however, is they're going to go with Lola Vice, and as a Lola Vice's call-up. She's been in NXT for a long time. Apparently, JC Jane is injured, so maybe she'll get that belt. If not, then I can see them bringing Lola Vice in as the partner for Damian Priest for mixed tag team matches and stuff like that. But you already have a bunch of women on SmackDown that you don't use, and a bunch of women on SmackDown that are underutilized. So it's entirely possible they could just forego the idea of it being his real girlfriend or even a kayfabe girlfriend, but just somebody like Mia Yim, who is already there, who isn't doing a whole lot and might match his freak in terms of, you know, character and stuff like that. And I could see them doing that. I could see them just saying, we're going to leave Lola Vice in NXT. Instead, we're just going to use Mia Yim. And I'm saying Mia Yim because when I saw it happen on screen, I was like, this seems like something they're going to throw Mia Yim into. I don't know why, but that's exactly what popped into my head. Is they're going to put Mia Yim into this thing because her and Zelina have had this long history, and something tells me that they're just going to continue that. And that's that. All right, so that was pretty much it for SmackDown. Nothing else really mattered. And it was slightly better than previous weeks because of the return of Nakamura and the MFTs. And the matches were much better. Nakamura and Zayn was very good. Aleister Black versus Damian Priest was solid. Tag Team Championship match was okay. It's hard for it to be great when the Wyatt Six are involved. But I'm very interested in Jacob and Cody. I'm very interested in Drew and Cody. And I'm interested in seeing where they go with Zelina Vega and Aleister Black. So that's it for SmackDown Crown Jewel. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.